The internal conflicts Earth, Wind, and Fire tried to keep secret.
The sun beaming down between the leaves.
10 internal conflicts inside Earth, Wind, and Fire that the band, the label, and the machinery around them worked very hard to keep out of public view. I want to be precise about what this is. This is not a list of arguments. This is a list of people. Men and women who put something irreplaceable into music that 90 million records carried around the world, and who, when the accounting was done, were not standing where they should have been standing. Some of them were fired. Some of them were paid less than the road crew. One of them is in a grave with no name on it. The music survived all of it. The names did not, and that is not the same thing. Number 10, the 9 who were erased before the first hit.
All alone in my world of dreams.
Before I tell you what happened to the first version of this band, I need to tell you who was in it.
Here I stand underneath the
because that is the part that makes the rest of it land.
sing love you so.
Wade Flemens, born in Coffeyville, Kansas in 1940, raised in Battle Creek, Michigan, taken to gospel by a father who preached it.
All alone waiting for the girl. Yeah.
VJ Records signed him at 17.
Don't you know?
His first chart record, Here I Stand, came out under Wade Flemens and the Newcomers, and it did well enough that VJ built an album around him in 1959.
Don't you know I love you so?
Over the next 7 years, he put out 15 singles for that label. He was a working recording artist before Maurice White had a band at all.
A heart that's true. If you need someone to.
In 1969, in Chicago, Maurice White formed a songwriting trio with Wade Flemens and Don Whitehead. They called it the Salty Peppers. That trio is the seed.
Love you. Yes, and here I stand.
That is where Earth, Wind, and Fire actually begins. And then the group moved to Los Angeles, signed to Warner Brothers, took the new name, and did not sell.
All alone in my world of dreams.
The first 2 albums came and went. Warner wasn't happy. Maurice's manager, Leonard Smith, told him plainly that he would never get where he was going with the lineup he had.
Here I stand underneath the.
So Smith dismissed nearly all of them. Wade Flemens, Don Whitehead, Sherry Scott the singer, Michael Beale on guitar, Chester Washington on saxophone, Leslie Drayton on trumpet, Alexander Thomas on trombone, Yaakov Ben Israel on percussion.
Don't you know I love you so?
Maurice White was not in the room when it happened. He kept one person from the original group, his brother Verdine.
And here I stand. Here.
Wade Flemens went back to the Midwest. He raised 4 children. He never recorded again.
Don't you know I love you so?
He died of cancer on October 13, 1993, in Battle Creek, Michigan. He was 53 years old.
A heart that's true. If you need someone to.
He was a founding member of one of the best-selling groups in the history of American music, and by the time it sold 90 million records, he had been out of it for more than 2 decades.
Love you. Yes, and here I stand.
If that name was in your house growing up, if you had a VJ45 with Wade Flemens on the label, you already understand what I'm saying.
Love you. Yes, and here I stand.
Number 9, Jessica Cleaves. Let me tell you who this was. before I tell you what happened. Because the what happened is short, and she deserves longer than that. Jessica Marguerite Cleaves, born in Los Angeles, December 10, 1948. Her mother was a librarian. Her father worked for the Postal Service. Her grandfather was a presiding bishop. She studied at the California Institute of the Arts and then at UCLA, trained, formally, in a business that mostly didn't care whether you were. In 1968, she co-founded the Friends of Distinction. Their first single was a vocal version of Hugh Masekela's Grazin' in the Grass, and in 1969, it went top 5 on both the pop and the soul charts. She had a low, unhurried alto that could climb without ever sounding like it was straining. On records like I Really Hope You Do, she is the whole reason the song works. In 1971, she left the group that made her famous to join a band that had not made a hit yet. That band was Earth, Wind and Fire. She sang on Last Days in Time in 1972 and Head to the Sky in 1973. Then the band opened for Parliament Funkadelic, got out-funked in front of a crowd that barely applauded for them, and Maurice White decided the whole thing had to change. Cleaves left. By most accounts, she left before Maurice could put his plans for her into motion. 2 years later, Earth, Wind and Fire released That's the Way of the World. It went to number 1. She was already gone. She went to Detroit. She sang with George Clinton on Uncle Jam Wants You, on Glory Holla Stupid, on Trombipulation, on Computer Games. And then, sometime in the late 80s, she stopped appearing. She died in Los Angeles on May 2, 2014, at 65, following complications from a stroke. When she died, almost nothing was announced beyond the fact of it.
Real talk. Only 9% of you are subscribed. That hurts. We're spending hours digging through archives, fact-checking every detail, bringing these stories back to life. And if you're watching this far, you clearly care. So hit subscribe. It's free and takes 2 seconds. Now, to my subscribers, barely any of you have joined the membership. And honestly, that stings even more. You know the work we put in. You keep coming back. If these videos have ever made you feel something, if this music means something to you, join the membership. It's $1 coffee a month, and it's the only way we keep this going. Let's build this together. All right, back to it.
Number 8, Johnny Graham and the First Royalty Check. This is a guitarist whose playing you have heard several hundred times without ever once being told his name. And until 1981. He was inducted into the R21 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2000, and he showed up to accept it. And in 2026, in Questlove's documentary on the band, he finally described what it was like to open his first royalty envelope. Graham says Maurice handed it to him and told him this was his royalty for the record. Graham looked at the number and asked what it was. He walked away from the band and, in his telling, never came back, because there was no reason to be treated that way while not getting paid.
Prove me, give a little sign. I'll be there after a while.
He is not the only one who said it. Other members from that era described salaries around $2,500 a week, while the band was generating millions. One of them put it in terms that don't require any interpretation. It was less than some of the roadies were making. And I want to be clear about what I am saying. This band was selling out arenas. This band was flying a stage show that cost more than most tours grossed. The money existed. It simply did not arrive where the sound was coming from. Talent without documentation is just genius with no witnesses. And a credit line is documentation. A publishing split is documentation. A royalty statement is documentation. When those things are missing, the music still exists, but the person becomes optional in the telling of it. Number 7. Larry Dunn and the publishing. Some names were built to last. The industry just didn't let them stand where they belonged. Larry Dunn, born June 19, 1953. He came out of East High School in Denver, where he knew Philip Bailey, and he was still a teenager when he joined Earth, Wind & Fire in 1972. He became the band's keyboardist and its musical director. The synthesizer voicings, the harmonic architecture underneath those records, the thing that makes an Earth, Wind & Fire chord sound like an Earth, Wind & Fire chord and not a Kool and the Gang chord, a great deal of that is Larry Dunn. He was also inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2000. Here is how he has described the arrangement inside the band. For the first 8 years, he says, Maurice took everybody's publishing. 8 years. That covers Open Our Eyes. That covers That's the Way of the World, which held number 1 on the pop albums chart for 3 weeks in the spring of 1975. That covers Gratitude. That covers Spirit. That covers All in All. That covers the run where this band became untouchable. Others in the documentary put it more bluntly still, that Maurice was slow to give up credit to anyone, that the whole band should have had co-production credit, and that the reason they didn't was that one man needed to be seen as the sole author of the sound. And I will say clearly what most people won't. Whether or not any of that was legal, and it was a choice. Somebody decided how the paperwork would read. Paperwork does not fill itself out. Larry Dunn left in 1983. He built the Larry Dunn Orchestra. He has spent decades producing other people's records. And when Questlove came to make the definitive film about this band in 2026, Dunn declined to appear in it. So did Al McKay. Their side of the story exists in that film only as archive footage. 40 years later, 2 of the men who built the sound still did not want to sit in the room. And I need you to hold that for a moment. Number 6, A.L. McKay. You know his work better than you know almost any musician alive. You have simply never been told his name. Al McKay, born February 2nd, 1948, in New Orleans. His first professional job was at 18, playing guitar for the Ike and Tina Turner Revue. From there, he worked with Charles Wright and the Watts 103rd Street Band, then with Sammy Davis Jr., then with Isaac Hayes. That's McKay on stage with Hayes in Watts Tax. He joined Earth, Wind & Fire in 1973 and stayed 8 years. And in 1978, he wrote a chord progression that has not stopped playing since. September was released on November 18, 1978. The composer credit is Al McKay. The lyrics are credited to Allie Willis and Maurice White. Willis wanted the nonsense refrain taken out. She said so, repeatedly, and Maurice refused, and Maurice was right, and the record became one of the most recognized songs in the American catalog. McKay also co-wrote Sing a Song. He co-wrote Saturday Night. He co-wrote Best of My Love for the Emotions, which won a Grammy. He was, by his own description and by others, the director of the band on the floor. He left in 1981. Within 2 years, Earth, Wind & Fire did not exist. He raised his son. He produced records for the Temptations, and eventually he built a group called Al McKay's Earth, Wind & Fire Experience, filled it with former members Andrew Woolfolk, Fred White, Johnny Graham, Michael Harris, and went out playing the songs he had written in the original keys under a name that has to explain itself. He wrote September, and to perform it, he had to call his own band a tribute. Whether the industry did that to him deliberately or just by default, I think you already know the answer. Number 5, the Phoenix Horns.
Just tell me back, so I
4 men. And if you know this band at all, you know their sound before you know anything else about them. Don Myrick on saxophone, Louis Satterfield on trombone, Romley Michael Davis on trumpet, Michael Harris on trumpet. They came out of Chicago. Myrick and Satterfield had played together in a college band, then in the Pharaohs. Satterfield was a Chess Records session man. That's him on Fontella Bass's Rescue Me. He also played bass on the very early demos Maurice White cut at Chess, which means he is audible on this band's music before this band had a name.
just give me one more night. Give me that.
In 1975, Maurice brought them in as the horn section. Michael Harris's control in the upper register is a large part of why that section sounds the way it does.
So please give me one more night.
Now hold this. That horn section is the signature of Earth, Wind & Fire, and it was never made part of Earth, Wind & Fire.
One more night, 'cause I can't wait forever.
They were the EWF horns, later the Phoenix horns, a unit, attached, not included. In 1981, they began working with Phil Collins, playing on Face Value and everything that followed. That's Myrick on One More Night. In the video, in the pub.
One more night, oh, one more.
By 1983, they were out of the Earth, Wind, and Fire picture entirely. In 1987, Maurice White simply built a new horn section with new men.
Please give me one more night. Give me that one.
And in the 1990s, two of them ended up in a British courtroom over royalty payments from the Collins Live album.
Change your mind. You know I'll be here.
A judge found Collins's company had overpaid Satterfield and Davis, ruled the men would not have to return the money, called it regrettable that it ever reached court, and criticized how the company had handled it. Louis Satterfield died in Chicago in 2004. Romley Davis went back to session work. The Phoenix Horns had disbanded in 1996.
'Cause I can wait forever. Please give me.
Here is the number that tells you everything. On March 6, 2000, at the Waldorf Astoria, Earth, Wind, and Fire was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. 9 members were inducted by name. Not one of them was a Phoenix horn. The sound went into the building. The men who made it did not. Number 4, the hiatus that wasn't one. This isn't about one person. It is about 9 or 10 of them at the same moment, and what that moment cost. Understand what this band's schedule had been. 9 straight years of touring, an album a year, sometimes 2. Maurice producing outside acts on top of it. The Emotions, Denise Williams, Ramsey Lewis. Philip Bailey has written about the toll that the work ethic that launched the band into the stratosphere also exhausted and emotionally gutted the people inside it. Then the record started slipping. Powerlight, February 1983, number 4 R&B, number 12 pop, gold, respectable. Electric Universe, November 1983, number 40 on the Billboard 200. Columbia was not happy. Maurice was not happy. And Maurice shut the band down. He called it a hiatus. The people in it say they were fired. They found out that the thing they had given a decade to was simply over. And these were men whose income came from touring and salary, not from publishing, which we have already established most of them did not have. When the touring stopped, the money stopped that same week. Members of one of the biggest bands on earth were suddenly broke. Maurice White's own son, KB, has offered the explanation that hurts the most. He suggests his father repeated something done to him, that Maurice, whose mother left him when he was 5, built himself a family, and then left them before they could leave him. I know. I felt the same way when I read it. Take a second with that one. Because that reframes every entry we've covered. It doesn't excuse any of it. A man's childhood is not a discharge of what he owed the people who built his records. But it explains the shape of it, the control, the publishing, the reluctance to share a credit, the abrupt endings with no conversation attached. Number 3. The 8-Year Secret. Before the diagnosis, before any of this, I need you to know who Maurice White was, because he is not the villain of this story. He is the most complicated person in it. Born in Memphis, December 19th, 1941. Raised largely by his grandmother, session drummer at Chess Records, he played behind Etta James, Muddy Waters, Buddy Guy. Then he replaced Red Holt in the Ramsey Lewis Trio and toured on 9 of their albums. He found the kalimba there. He named his band after the elements in his astrological chart, dropped air for wind, and built a black band in the 1970s whose entire message was that the people listening mattered. Barack Obama has said, on camera, that watching them as a black kid in Hawaii made him ask what he could do. In the late 1980s, his hands began to shake. In 1992, at 51, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. He told the public nothing. He kept touring with it. By his own account, 5 more years on the road with the diagnosis in his pocket, managing it with medication. In 1994, he stopped touring, and the reason given to the world was vague. Rumors moved through the industry for years. He held that secret for 8 years. He broke it 1 week before the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction in March 2000. His reason was almost unbearably plain. He had gotten tired of not talking about it. People had stopped seeing him, and they had started wondering. And there was a second life kept in the dark, which only became public in 2026. A son named Eden, born to the band's costume designer, and a relationship maintained for close to 20 years, alongside his long-term partner Marilyn, who eventually left him. Eden introduces himself in that film as Maurice's youngest son that we know of. Maurice White died on February 3, 2016 at 74. He had lived with Parkinson's for more than 2 decades and had kept working the entire time. Let me be clear about what I'm saying. A man who demanded that much control over the record could not control this. And so he hid it. For 8 years. Number 2, Dunn Myrick. I want to tell it properly because almost nobody has. Donald Myrick, born April 6, 1940, in Chicago. He came up through Crane Junior College, playing in a band called the Jazzmen, alongside Louis Satterfield. He was a founding participant in the Association for the Advancement of Creative Musicians, the AACM, the Chicago collective that reshaped what Black experimental music was allowed to be. This was not a session hand. This was a serious musician with a serious lineage. And now I am going to name the things you have already heard him play. The alto solo on the live version of Reasons, from Gratitude, the one the crowd screams at. The saxophone on After the Love Has Gone. The solo on Ramsey Lewis's Sun Goddess. The horn on the Emotions, I Don't Want to Lose Your Love. Anita Baker's You Bring Me Joy. Phil Collins's One More Night. That is Myrick in the video, in the pub, in front of the camera. Earth, Wind and Fire's instrumental Runnin' won the Grammy for Best R&B Instrumental Performance, and his horn is the reason it exists. That is one man. That is one lifetime of solos that other people's careers were built on. On July 30th, 1993, Santa Monica police came to his apartment to serve a search warrant in a narcotics investigation. He opened the door holding a butane lighter. Officer Gary Barbero mistook it for a weapon and fired one round into his chest. Don Myrick died in the hospital that day. He was 53. His family sued. In 1995, the case settled for $400,000. He was buried at Inglewood Park Cemetery in Los Angeles County. Plot in the El Portal section, Lot 1034, Grave B. There is no marker on it. Decades later, the man who played the most recognizable saxophone solo in the Earth, Wind and Fire catalog lies in an unmarked grave. He was not inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2000. He had been dead 7 years by then. Number 1, Charles Stepney. Let me tell you who this was before I tell you what was done with his name.
After the slap game has been played, all I really...
Charles Stepney, born in Chicago, March 26, 1931. He studied theory at Wilson Junior College and came up playing vibraphone in the same club scene that produced Eddie Harris. He became the in-house arranger at Chess and its cadet subsidiary, and what he did there rewired soul music, dense, orchestral, classical in its bones, electronic in its instincts. He arranged for the Dells. He built the world around Minnie Riperton in Rotary Connection. In 1970, Downbeat magazine named him talent deserving wider recognition. Hold that phrase. Maurice White met him at Chess as Ramsey Lewis's drummer, and in his own book, Maurice described the arrangement plainly. He was the quarterback of Earth, Wind and Fire, and Charles Stepney was the coach. You know this song. It has been part of your life for a long time. Reasons. Philip Bailey's falsetto climbing over that arrangement from That's the Way of the World in 1975. And here is the part that tells you what kind of record it is. It was never released as a single. It didn't need to be. Charles Stepney co-wrote it with Maurice White and Philip Bailey. Knowing that song and knowing what it cost to make it are two different kinds of knowing. Let me give you the second one. In the spring of 1976, during the sessions for the album Spirit, Stepney had a massive heart attack. He survived it, went home to Chicago to recover, and appeared to be improving. A second attack killed him on May 17, 1976. He was 45 years old. He left a wife, Ruby, and 3 daughters, Aber, Charlene, and Shantae. He had been in discussions to work with Michael Jackson and Barbra Streisand. Maurice finished the album alone and titled it Spirit in his memory.
After this love game has been played, all I really
Getaway, which Stepney produced, went to #1 R&B that summer, posthumously. Spirit went to #2 on the pop chart. And then his name began to disappear. For years, it was missing from liner notes, absent from the histories, left out of the credit given to the artists whose greatest work he made possible. His 3 daughters have spent decades fighting to get his name reattached to his own catalog. On March 6, 2000, 9 people were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as Earth, Wind and Fire. Charles Stepney was not one of them. The coach is not in the building, and talent deserving wider recognition turned out to be the most accurate thing anyone in the music business ever wrote about him.